Hello. We're now in chapter 9 of Ezekiel. And he cried in my ears with a loud voice, saying, Come near, O you avengers of the city, every man with his destroying weapon in his hand. And behold, 6 men came from the way of the upper gate and towards the north, and every man had his destroying weapon in his hand. And there was a man among them clothed with linen, and his loins were girded with girdles of sapphire, and they went in and stood behind the bronze altar. And the glory of God, the God of Israel, was gone up from the cherub which stood on the corner of the house. And he called the man who was clothed with linen and whose loins were girded with girdles of sapphire. And the Lord said to them, Go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the forehead of the men who sigh and and who are tormented on account of all the abominations and evil things that are done in the midst thereof. So here is where we get the mark of the beast. It is not men are spoken of in the Bible as beast. Okay. So the mark of the beast is the mark of man. It is the mark of 6. Number of man is 6. So here in this chapter, the Lord is saying 6 men, which is the number of man, came. And what did God do? He marked them on their forehead. He marks the people, the men, mankind. Men is both men and women. Mankind with a mark on our forehead. Is the mark of God, not the mark of the devil, the mark of God. And if you don't have God's mark on your head, you are lost and will not make the resurrection and the rapture. And why does he mark us? Because we sigh at the torments and the abominations that are going on in this world. In other words, we are set apart, praying and crying from those things because they're not of God, and we only want what's of God. And he says, and to those who were with him, he said in my sight, Go after him through the city and destroy. Let not your eyes spare, nor have pity. Slay utterly old and young. What? Old and young. Even slay the children, both virgins and little children, and women, but touch not any man upon whom is the mark. And begin at my sanctuary. Remember, judgment begins at the house of God. So they began with the elders who stood in front of the house. So in other words, this is a picture of what has been going on for a long, long time. Since Jesus left, these angels have been going out and giving a mark to the ones that are God's. Remember, even back when the Lord sent Cain out of the garden, he put a mark on him and he told him that nobody better touch him because he had a mission to do for the Lord. Even though he was evil and even though he was not saved, God still marked him for a purpose. So that he was marked, and we are marked if you are a Christian, because he says, Begin at my sanctuary. And he said to them, Defile the house and fill the courts with the slain, then go forth and slay in the city. In other words, judgment begins at the house of God. the angels go through the houses of the churches, and they go through the temples of the people in those churches. And that's when you receive a visitation, and you either get a mark for God or a mark against God. Then when they're through marking all the church people, then they will go out to the cities and the byways and see if there's any out there that are getting saved to be marked. And he said, and it came to pass, when they had slain them, I was left, and I fell upon my face and cried with a loud voice mournfully, and said, Lord God, Ah, Lord God, wilt thou destroy all the residue of Israel? Wilt thou pour out thy fury upon Jerusalem? Then he said to me, the iniquity of the house of Israel, the world, and Judah, Israel, is exceedingly great. The land is full of blood, and the city full of treachery. For they said, the Lord has forsaken the earth, and the Lord does not see us. And as for me, I will have no mercy upon them, nor will I have any pity, but I will recompense their evil ways upon their head. And behold, the man clothed with linen answered, saying, I have done as thou hast commanded me. So the man clothed with linen is an angel sent by God, one of the angels, sent out to mark. So chapter 9 is all about the mark of God. He begins at the household of God in the churches, and he goes forth from there. First, judgment begins at the household of God, and he judges us. And he sets a mark upon us so that we are ready when he comes. It will be the ones that have the mark of God that will be taken up. So we've discovered that there's not just a mark of man, there's a mark of God on man. So that was pretty interesting. If you want to study that further, that would be a wise thing to do, and let it get in your own spirit. Okay, thanks.